Welcome back to In Search of Tontonteac. For the last few weeks, we got a little off the beaten path looking at the Aztec connections, the Hopi replacement theory, and Teguayo and Quivira possible locations. I will be following up on all of these subjects eventually. This week, we are going to get back on track for our search for Tontonteac. As a reminder, Tontonteac is most often depicted in between the Colorado River and the Gila River. We also know that the Spanish had placed a mission in this area called St. Dionysio. This mission was destroyed during the Great Revolt. Our little detour has presented us with a new piece of evidence which I was not expecting. The José Ramirez map 1768 showed us a bit of information that was either neglected or purposely removed from future maps. First mansion built by Mexican Indians is located in northwest of the Gila and the Colorado rivers. Now it is often depicted on maps that Casa Grande was the second mansion built by the Aztec. But what or where was the first? In a previous video, we discussed briefly about Cibola National Wildlife Refuge, and this location has piqued my interest not just due to its name, but because it is a government-regulated location which would be easy for places to remain hidden from the general public. The story is told Cibola was established in the 1960s to protect and recreate the marshes and backwaters and meanders that natural flooding would have formed, and provide wintering grounds for wildlife. And due to this, wildlife thrives in this environment where temperatures reach 120 degrees in the summer and the average rainfall is only 2 inches per year. Cibola Valley claimed its name in 1898 via newspaper article calling it such. The people were said to be of human heritage for several centuries before. The human people consisted of tribes known as Yuma, Mojave, Cocopa, Maricopa, and Quechan. Interesting enough, the Yavapai also spoke Yuman. The Yavapai and the Tonto Apache were kindred groups living in close proximity. You may remember from a previous video that one of the maps said the Yavapai were to have long beards. The Tonto Apache we have discussed may be an heir to Tontonteac. Getting away from this train of thought, I wanted to search the nearby areas of the Colorado River with the hopes of discovering Tontonteac, or the mansions of the Mexican Indians. Just north of Cibola, we find Blyth, California. Blyth is home to ancient geoglyphs, like its cousin Peru and their Nazca lines and geoglyphs. The date or who made them is merely speculation, but it is suggested that it was a human-speaking people. Could this have been the work of the Tontonteac? Just south of Cibola, we find another wildlife refuge. The Imperial Wildlife Refuge is about 30 miles north of Yuma, Arizona. In 1939, the Imperial Dam was completed, which created numerous backwaters and marsh areas along the edges of the river, roughly totaling 30 miles of refuge, basically making an oasis in the desert. Then just south of this refuge, we find an old mining town called Castle Dome Landing. It is said the natives were mining silver and turquoise from this area for centuries. It is believed that natives did not inhabit these mountains, but rather mined and then backpacked to a site about 18 miles south where adobe furnaces were discovered. Castle Dome Landing gets its name from this interesting-looking mountain that has a dome-like look to it. The mountains in Arizona are pretty interesting considering there is no fault lines. These mountains are all said to be created through volcanic activities throughout Arizona. A few other sites caught my interest as well. Obregon was an 1800s mining town which is no longer operating today. It happens to be on the California side of the Colorado River northwest of Yuma. I have not located too many ruin sites around it, but I recognize the name from a Spanish explorer named Baltazar de Obregon, who was a 16th century Spanish explorer. Is this mining town named for this Spanish explorer for any particular reason? Just west of Obregon, we find Ogilby, California. Now we have discussed Ogilby in a previous video as John Ogilby, who was another famous translator, historian, and cartographer. Interestingly, The city is said to be named after E.R. Ogilby, a mine promoter from the 1800s. Ogilby, California, is basically a ghost town today. Two things really stands out to me. St. Dionysio and all these small cities, villages, or encampments that is depicted upon this Father Kino map. The Spanish had a habit of building their missions within populated areas with the intentions of conversion, as when we first discovered this now deceased Spanish mission, this area was already heavily populated. Upon the Father first encountering the area, he had an audience of over 1,500 souls. Tontonteac is always depicted upon maps as being on the Arizona side. Traditionally, it is placed around the crossing of the Gila and Colorado River. This particular map depicts a third river which does not exist today. Next week, we will be looking at a theory I've been waiting patiently to get to. Next up, Lake Mead.